Assistant Coach Derek St. John here. So we'll open up for questions for Coach.
Hey, Coach, we asked Metcalf some variation of this question, and I think I usually ask Dresser some variation of this question every week. But what have you kind of learned from the team through these first few weeks, and especially after what they went through this past weekend?
I've learned that we've got a very talented team, a very young and inexperienced team, and we've made quite a bit of growth through the early part of the season, and I'm very excited to see kind of how it unfolds here the rest of the year.
I know when your career, you redshirted before you were kind of thrown in, to the varsity lineup, so to speak. These freshmen that are getting this year to really kind of get this experience, especially Terrakina and Redding and younger too. That's a whole unique thing in and of itself. But how have you kind of seen them, I mean, from your perspective, really kind of take this year of experience and really use it to grow? I mean, we've seen some pretty good things from them over this first few weeks.
Looking back on myself, I had a pretty fair true freshman year, and there was a lot of lumps and bumps in there though also. Unfortunately, those guys don't get that break-in year necessarily, even though this is kind of saw as maybe a free year in a lot of people's eyes, but there's still a way to earn yourself a spot on the podium, which is big in any regards, right? So, these guys are getting thrown into the fire, and it's kind of sink or swim a little bit. And what's kind of exciting is these guys are jumping right in there, thinking of Redding and Terrakina and Robinson, and even younger a little bit, especially seeing his growth in this past week. And, that's very exciting, and it'll be interesting to see how they continue to grow.
Hey, Coach, you work with, well, from my understanding, what Dresser said, you work with Bastida a lot in the room. How have you seen him progress from, I guess, day one to now to where he's at, learning folk style and getting used to everything that is folk style wrestling?
It's tough. You got the language barrier for one. Obviously, we have Fernando, who basically is the middleman on everything, but we use things like the Google Translator on your phone and communicate that way. So, it slows everything way down, as opposed to you're working with true freshmen, Zach Redding or Robinson, Terrakina or Woodley, whoever, Fisher, whoever, right? Because you don't have that barrier. And then throw, he's 19 years old, 20, 21 years old. He's wrestled freestyle his whole life. That's not an easy transition to make. I'd say it's definitely a little easier to go from folk style to freestyle and then vice versa when you have zero experience doing those things. His credentials kind of coming into here where they kind of speak for themselves. I mean, he's beat some very high level wrestlers in freestyle, but there's definitely a difference in the styles of where in folk style, you got to be in that top-notch shape all the time. You got to be solid all the time, and you can get away with rolling around a little bit more, but you still got to know those positions, where in freestyle, you don't really have to know those positions at all. So, he's learning slowly but surely. He's made quite a bit of growth. Obviously the big area for him is going to be the bottom position, and we've kind of thrown him to the wolves a little bit. We've stuck him down against some pretty high level guys, like the Oklahoma guy. He's pretty tough on top, and we just wanted to see how he could do. He's a pretty positive, upbeat kid, and he's rolling with the punches pretty well. So
you mentioned throwing him to the wolves a little bit. Obviously, yeah, Woodley, AJ Ferrari this last weekend. Now he's getting Tanner Sloan, assuming he wrestles Tanner Sloan this weekend. I mean, how has that helped his progression, or how do you hope that helps his progression?
The Big 12 is pretty tough in regards at 197. So he gets a pretty tough competitor every single weekend. So, you know, you kind of wish you could have a couple more matches where you could maybe go execute and learn and have some success, but he's battling and he's doing well. He's slowly coming along. I think this match this last weekend, you could see quite a bit of growth. And I think if you're a true, wrestling, and you can step back and you can look at those matches, I think you can truly see who the better wrestler is all around, but doesn't really get the results he wants because he doesn't know maybe the match strategy or how to manage the match yet, or his shape's maybe not quite there, even though all those things are coming along.
What does he need to do to finish takedowns? Because I mean, Dresser's brought this up a few times. In freestyle, you get exposure for 2 points if you expose them. Folk style obviously doesn't have that. What does he need to do to actually finish a folk style takedown? What technical adjustments does he need to make? It seems like he's close.
He's very close. A lot of those shots that he was in on this weekend is just more about securing the leg and then slowly working up, and not maybe trying to get everything at one time where you're maybe catch an ankle and you're trying to jump up at the waist, where maybe freestyle you can do that because you're going for the big 4-point throw, or maybe you're going into the gut wrench transition or leg lace transition. That's where the difference in folk styles pretty significant. There's a lot of just minute details that can make the biggest differences.